AZRSIM's new Jeddah airport has just dropped. King Abdulaziz International Airport, the biggest hub in Saudi Arabia, Saudi 777s in the desert sunset, the Riyadh air launch, and there hasn't been a properly modelled Jeddah in MSFS until now. And then I saw the price. Right, okay, let's talk about it. So let's start with what they actually want for this thing. You go to the InnyBuild store, you hit the store page, you see a beautiful trailer, sweeping shots of the terminal, you see the feature list with the custom night lighting and the PBR materials. Every word is exactly the word that you would expect to see on a sales page. It looks great in the marketing copy, of course it does, that's what it's there for. And then you see the price, £31.19. Hold that number for a second, because for context, every other airport AZRSIM sells on the InnyBuild store for MSFS 2024 costs £22.80. Riyadh, Basra, Tripoli, that is the AZRSIM benchmark. That's what they think their work is worth by their own internal pricing. But Jeddah is £8 and change more than that. 37% more expensive than literally anything else that they've ever made. And if you ask me why, I honestly couldn't tell you. The trailer doesn't tell me, this doesn't tell me, or this. But hold on, because we're not done. Oh man, we're nowhere near finished. Because the Landmarks pack is a separate product. And this is what AZRSIM are actually selling to us for £10.80. That's it, I'm done, I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. By my count, somewhere in the region of 4 to 6 buildings plonked along the coastline. Not a city pack or a fully detailed rendition of Jeddah you could expect to use for VFR or a sunset arrival. Just a handful of coastal buildings for £10. In fairness, Jeddah Landmarks, Jeddah City, I don't know if I'm honest. And of course, because they've split it as separate products, if you actually want the airport and what AZRSIM are calling the city around it, you're in for a full £41.90. Let that sink in for a second. The price of an entire video game. The price of the PMGG 737-600 for one airport and 4 buildings. But there's a discount. For a limited time, use the exclusive secret code OEJNLM, that's OEJNLM at the InnyBuild checkout, and save the jaw-dropping, eye-watering, generation-defining sum of £4 British. 4 whole pounds off. Grab your AZRSIM Jeddah today. Terms and conditions apply. Offer subject to availability. Through availability is in no way guaranteed. Valid only at the InnyBuild checkout. Void where prohibited. Void where common sense applies. Jeddah Landmarks sold separately because the city of Jeddah cannot apparently be conveyed in fewer than 2 transactions. Frame rates are not guaranteed. Sorry, I got myself carried away there. So that's what they want. Let's talk about what they're actually giving you for it. After I heard from a number of other community members that performance wasn't the best, I thought that I would fire up MSFS 24's developer mode. And I want to be clear right off the bat that I am not a 3D artist. I haven't learned any of it. I can't model my way out of a paper bag. In fact, I tried to model a donut and this is how it turned out. Yeah.
What the hell was that?
What I can do though is fly around the airport in drone mode with the dev overlay on or another third-party tool for analysing graphics performance to see what it's actually made of. And what I found is quite probably some of the worst technical work that I have ever seen in the sim. Literally ever. Terminal exterior objects with 9,252,140 triangles on one model. That's not even the worst part. You can see here on the overlay where it says LOD 0 out of 0. Now for anyone who doesn't know, when a 3D engine renders an object, the standard practice for as long as 3D engines have ever existed is to ship multiple versions of that object. So essentially you'll have full detail up close, but then more simplified objects at a medium distance. The engine swaps between them automatically as you move further away to save performance. And this is also in Microsoft's own SDK documentation. For example, here, in this example, what you can see here is LOD 00 through to LOD 06 with 7 different versions of every model. The highest detail, then progressively lower detail, all the way down to the lowest. Underneath this, you'll see the vertex count limits. Microsoft shows us for every given vertex count here what minimum screen size that model needs to occupy before the engine will even render it at full detail. A 15,000 vertex model needs to take up, for example, about 39% of the screen to render at full detail. A 1 million vertex model needs to take up all of the screen before the engine lets it render at its highest LOD. Why? Because Microsoft knows that high polygon models without LOD chains kills performance. The engine is built by design to penalize you if you ship something like that, to force the load down, because they understand that a million vertex model rendering at full detail is absolutely going to melt anybody's GPU, and I don't care what kind of GPU you have. Every gold standard MSFS payware airport follows this guidance. Hong Kong does it, Dubai does it, even freeware airports that I have covered in the best freeware airports video do it. But AZRSIM's terminal exterior collection does not. Zero LOD chain. What this means is that this object is rendered at full geometric complexity at every single distance. Whether you are 50 miles away, at the airport itself, inside your Phoenix A320, whatever, always in full detail. But it gets worse. Every object in a 3D scene has an origin point, a pivot if you will. If that object's origin is far enough off camera, the engine would cull it, skip rendering it entirely to again save performance. But that same terminal exterior collection's origin isn't at the airport, it's in the f***ing city. So when you're at the airport, the engine looks at this collection and thinks it lives somewhere else entirely. It isn't able to cull it properly. It has to render it from every angle, all the time, regardless of where you actually are. That is not a bug. That is not a one-off mistake. That is how they have shipped it. Inside the terminal, you've got gate areas, chairs, signage, interior objects, whatever you would expect to see in a modern international airport. But every single object, every single seat, and signage and interior object, you guessed it, LOD 0 out of 0. Same exact problem as the airport exterior, rendered at full geometric complexity from any distance you can see them at. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know how every interior asset is built. I don't have access to the project files, but what I do know is what the dev overlay shows me, what the hard data shows me. And what it does show me is dozens of interior objects, all at LOD 0, some with 6-figure triangle counts of their own. And that's on top of the multi-million triangle exterior collection that we just talked about. And it gets better, just stay with me for a second. Outside on the apron, you've got this assembly point sign. It has 852 triangles. 852. I mean, come on, the pole is a cylinder and the sign is a square.
I'm smart too.
Then there's the physical bolts modelled at the base of a structural column with fully textured, fully detailed PBR materials applied to them. And they are under the floor. You literally cannot see them. The only reason I can see them is because of Chaseplane. But somebody at AZRSIM modelled these bolts. Somebody, presumably a paid human being, made the executive decision that what this airport really needed was geometrically accurate metric thread modelling on bolts that sit below the floor where nobody will ever see them. My brain honestly hurts. Somebody legitimately spent time texturing them and applying PBR materials to them, and now I am paying for them. And the last one, the wheelie bin, 9,140 triangles. And the majority of those triangles, the huge crux to performance, is sitting at the bottom of the bin where you literally do not see it. So now let's get to the juicy bit, the bit that you've probably all been dying to see now that we've covered LODs and different performance metrics. Empty airport, clear weather, no AI traffic, terrain level of detail at 100, object level of detail at 100, with NVIDIA frame generation on. And this is on a 4070 Ti and a Ryzen 7800X 3D. And here's the medians. Pyreek Birmingham, 45.8 frames per second. RW Profiles Newcastle, 45.7 frames per second. The Freeware Q8, 45.7 frames per second. InnyBuilds Hong Kong, 45.4 frames per second. AZRSIM's Jeddah, 17.9 frames per second. It is roughly a third of the performance of every other airport that I have tested, and the lows are worse. Pyreek Birmingham, 39.7, RW Profiles Newcastle 38.9, the Freeware Q8 38.6, InnyBuilds Hong Kong 37.7, AZRSIM Jeddah 15.5. A 40% drop in performance to a Freeware Q8 airport that someone built and put on the internet for free. But the thing that killed me the most was the actual GPU side. At Birmingham, the GPU is running at 73% utilization. At Newcastle, 85%. At Q8, 64%. At Hong Kong, 80%. All of them have comfortable enough headroom and the GPU has more to give if it needs to. But at Jeddah, 96%. That GPU is running absolutely flat out, completely maxed, with nothing left to give, and it produces 18 frames per second. InnyBuilds Hong Kong, one of the most complex airports in this comparison, is producing 45 frames at 80%, compared to 18 at 96%. Tell me again that that is worth £37. I know that in some regards this video might seem like a rant. It might look like some angry man on the internet looking to dunk on a smaller developer because I've had a bad afternoon and a few beers. It isn't, and I want to take a moment properly to be really clear about what this video is and isn't. I do not think that scenery should be free. I do not think that airports and add-ons or whatever should be free either. Porting work, building work, optimizing work, all of it is real work. Developers should rightfully be paid for that work, and in my opinion, not enough are paid well enough for it. The people doing it well are, in many cases, underpaid sometimes. This video is not anti-developer. It isn't even really anti-AZRSIM as a company. This video is anti this product. There is a difference. The thing that irks me the most about all of this isn't AZRSIM themselves. It's what this product, at this price, in this state, does to everybody else. There are developers like the ones that we have spoken about in this video already, and there are many others who do this properly, who spend months on a single airport, if not years, who set up their products using correct optimization techniques, who instance their assets, who use correct LOD chains exactly the way that they should, who sit there at 3 in the morning agonizing over polygon budgets because they understand what those numbers fundamentally do to performance for the people who are buying their products. There are dozens of smaller developers in this space, some of them paid, some of them who give away their work for free, who actually give a shit, who shipped well optimized, well modeled, properly considered airports for £15 or £12 or £8, sometimes nothing at all, and they all charge less than £37. Most of them charge dramatically less. And when AZRSIM ships this, two things happen. The first is that AZRSIM normalizes this level of work as acceptable for such a premium price tag because it's there now, it's on the storefronts, it's sitting there right now at £37. The next time that a complete newcomer to our community looks at airport pricing, they're going to see this and think, well, that airport is £25, so that must be a steal. The standard slips, the benchmark moves, and every developer who actually does the hard work is now competing against a baseline that's been dragged down by people who don't. The second thing that happens is that smaller developers who deserve more can't. If they raise their prices to reflect the level of work that they do, they get compared to the highest price. Why is this airport £25 when AZRSIM Jeddah is £37? That's a conversation that's now possible, and the devs who have done it properly is now going to feel the pressure to undercharge, because some other developer in some other corner of the marketplace decided to bypass Microsoft's SDK and ship a Polygon bomb at a premium price tag and call it good. And watch what happens next. This price might not even last. In fact, I'm willing to bet money on it, in a few weeks or months even, this airport will probably get discounted. And at that point, AZRSIM is going to look like the good guys, the reasonable developer who heard the community and came down in price. But the price it is right now, £37, is an inflated number. The price set knowing a discount was probably coming. When actually £20, and I'm being completely generous by the way, that's probably the price that it should have been at launch, if it even should have launched at all. That is it. Inflate, discount, and then take credit. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book, but it does work. Honestly, if you want to support this hobby, if you want flight simulation to keep being good, then the developers that you should be paying are the ones that do this work properly. The smaller studios who are honest with us about what their work is worth. Just don't buy it. not at £41, not at £37, not at whatever discounted price they're going to pretend is generosity in a few weeks. Just don't. And I want my money back.